Hey, somebody needs to lower the temperature. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. Hey, have you heard about wisdomharbor.com? For less than $3 a month. Less than $3 a month. Less than half the gallon of gas. You'll have access to original content only found on wisdomharbor.com. It'll have a positive effect on your family, and that includes your little kids, teenagers, and adult children. Dave Ramsey says it's also great for your business and teams. We utilize video, audio, and the written word, and content's delivered in small bites by Grammy winners, CEOs, comedians, master chefs, best-selling authors, and Hall of Fame speakers. There are even guitar lessons from an award-winning songwriter. So check it out today and join your friends and neighbors who are already a part of wisdomharbor.com. They're leaving Netflix. They're coming to wisdomharbor.com. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on the Professional Noticer. And you know how excited we get when we have somebody that comes to the table with both. And we have a very unusually awesome guest today. You know, as many Olympics as you and I have watched, there's always somebody in the Olympics that like rises to the top and they become the story of the Olympics. They just become that story that you just can't stay away from. And it's in all the newspapers and it leads the Olympic telecast. And in 1988, in the Calgary Olympics, it was the Jamaican bobsled team. And to this day, there isn't anybody that doesn't remember these guys, and we have the guy here. We have Devin Harris from the movie Cool Runnings from the Jamaican bobsled team. Buddy, how are you doing?
Hey, Andy, it's great to connect with you, man. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I don't know if I am the guy, but for sure I'm one of the guys.
Well, we looked at everything and we decided you were the guy, and we'll tell the other guys that you were the guy.
If you say so, then it's true. And who am I to disagree, man?
Man, you know, I want to get into the books you have, the foundation you have. The keeponpushing.org is the foundation. Yeah. And there are 3 books that we'll talk about in a little bit. But at first, Devon, would you lead us through just the process of growing up in Jamaica and how you guys came to push bobsleds in the Winter Olympics?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story. So 1988 obviously is when the Olympics were. The first time I became aware of the Winter Olympics, that there was such a thing, was 4 years prior. I was still in high school and I was on my school's quiz team, kind of like Jeopardy, but for high school. And
right.
The Olympics were happening in Sarajevo that year. And so it was kind of a current affairs question. But prior to that, you know, I grew up, you know, running track. Being Jamaican, you'd think I was a sprinter, but no, I was a middle distance runner because everybody in Jamaica sprints fast except me. So I had these dreams of competing in the Summer Olympic Games. The other big dream I had growing up was to be an army officer. That was the thing that drove me the most. And so if you fast forward to 1987, I'm an army officer, newly minted. And I remember having this intense conversation with myself, Andy. I'm like, so you have achieved your big dreams. What are you going to do with the rest of your life, man? I'm like, oh yeah, the Olympics. They were coming up the following year in Seoul, Korea. So I started running, you know, my 5 miles every morning, hoping I could get fit enough to qualify for those games. I don't know what that looked like. But run about that time, 2 Americans who lived in Jamaica came up with the idea to start a bobsled team. And they couldn't get guys on a summer team to do it, so they came to the Army looking for athletes. And my colonel had run this cross-country race, and they were surprised. They're like, "Oh my God, he's fit!" So my colonel, because he had his enlisted men going to the team trials, told me to go to the team trials as well. Not expecting me to make the team, quite honestly, but just because of a philosophy in the Army that says officers must always participate. But I went with the intention of making the team. The selection process, because I know your audience is wondering, how do you select a bobsled team in Jamaica? Very similar to certainly at the outset, the way all the major nations selected their teams. So it's a little like the NFL combine. So you're sprinting 30, 60, 100 meters, 300 meters, and they give you points based on how well you performed. And I guess I performed well enough, and maybe the dashing smile that I brought.
I think that's it. I think that's part
I
of
think
it.
so, I would give the smile the edge, but they selected me. They selected. I was one of the 4 persons that selected to spearhead this Jamaica bobsled effort.
Now, did you guys have any idea? Now, you knew it was different, and you knew from the first time you said, "Yeah, we're from Jamaica, we're the bobsled team," and people said, "What?" You knew that it was different. But did you know that you were going to catch on and be the talk of the Winter Olympics?
I don't. Nobody could have predicted that, man. To be honest, you're absolutely right. In the very beginning, you got the sense that we're doing something a little bit differently. I remember being in Europe, for example, training, and people see 4 black guys in similar jackets walking down the street and go, "Hey, are you guys American basketball players?" At the time, I didn't know that Americans went to Europe to play basketball, right? And I'm like, "No, we're bobsledders from Jamaica." And they go, "Yeah, right." Nobody would believe. And then you kind of start to get the sense that, yeah, it's a little bit more different. We start to get a lot of publicity in the press. And then it just kind of went crazy when we eventually got to the Olympics. It was just, another level in terms of the attention. But, and what I realized, just kind of looking back over the years, is what our team did was that it reminded people of all the goals and dreams that they had that seemed ridiculous, and they were afraid to go after it. And here it is that there's 4 guys from Jamaica pursuing something like bobsledding. So people were able to relate to that. And that's why our story resonated so well.
You have a children's book, and it's Yes, I Can. And I think that has to be the message from history of the Jamaican bobsled team, is something that you guys have laid out for school children and adults, not to be excluded just because it's not the industry standard, because it's not the way things are done, but that finding a way where there is no way is exceptionally profitable in many ways.
Yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned adults, because I often talk about the fact that the book is written for children, and for those children who now call themselves adults,
Yeah.
Because the message is universal, man, that, yeah, this goal, this desire that you have may seem so ridiculously impossible. But if you believe in yourself, if you keep saying, "Yes, I can," when other people tell you it's not possible, when circumstances suggest it's not possible, during those moments when, yeah, you did muster the courage to try and you fail or you encounter some setback, if you keep telling yourself, "Yes, I can," eventually you'll get there.
I think it's important that you said for adults that used to be children, because there was a time in all of our lives when nothing was impossible, that we just kind of believed that we could do whatever. I was telling somebody earlier today about my youngest son, and when he was in the 4th grade, he found out that football conflicted with something else he liked to do. And he played football 1 year, and he was not very coordinated, and he didn't play much. And And after the year, he said, Dad, is that always during football season? And I said, yes, it is. He said, okay, then I'm not going to play professional football. And I mean, he's thinking he could.
Yeah.
And so, but then somewhere along the line, we do fall into that pattern where we know what can be done and what can't be done and what's expected of us and what we shouldn't force anybody's hand with. And boy, you guys broke all the rules.
So you're absolutely right. We broke all the rules, but to go back to kind of your build up, talking about kids and how they see the world. When we are younger kids, we see a world of possibilities. And I talk about that all the time. When we're daydreaming as kids, none of us ever go, oh, we want to be Mr. Mediocre. We all want to be the superhero, right?
Yeah.
But we think there's just such possibilities. And then, quote unquote, reality sets in and you go, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. And I get it that there are times when you have to make choices in life that's different from accepting limitations. And you're right. So we broke all the rules. We acknowledged that we're from Jamaica and acknowledged that we didn't know anything about this thing called bobsledding. The first time we saw a sled, believe it or not, and it was in September of '87, and we're at the Olympics in February of '88. And it just demonstrate that, man, sometimes when you really sell out one idea, you just totally commit to it and ignore the quote unquote facts that this can't be done. You can actually achieve something remarkable.
Devin, what do your parents do? What did you grow up? What kind of household did you grow up in?
I grew up in a place called Olympic Gardens, man.
Are you
in
serious?
Kingston. Yes, it's called Olympic Gardens. But here's the thing, though. It's actually, a really rough, depressed, violent ghetto environment. So I grew up really poor. My dad was a bus driver. I worked for at the time, the government had a bus company, the Jamaica Omnibus Service, it was called. So I was a driver for that, and my stepmother was unemployed. And so, yeah, we grew up, hand to mouth, rough, violent ghetto environment. That was my beginning.
And so, at some point, I mean, your parents had to be in shock just watching you on television, and to see how you have taken a thought, you've taken a mindset, and you've made a career. You're an author. You're a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
You're a teacher. You're a brand. You're an endorser.
Mm-hmm.
And my God, they've made a movie of your story.
Hey, dude, that there is a thing that Hollywood movies are made of, right? Just, when I think about where I'm from, and I had these big dreams as that kid, putting on the superhero cape, so to speak. I never could have imagined Hollywood making a movie about a part of my life. I remember being on the set and watching this and thinking, wow, yeah, this is the stuff that Hollywood movies are made of. I remember when I first went to visit my dad. He was living in Jersey when I was on the bobsled team, and we were watching a news clip, and he just sat there in silence watching it, and then at the end he goes, "But Dev, this thing is dangerous." And I kind of laughed. I'm like, "Yeah, Daddy, that's why we wear a helmet." Because when you're young and foolish, you think you're invincible. Nothing's ever going to happen to you. But yeah, they're proud of the things I've accomplished along the way.
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to see where this has gone, and to imagine where you're going. If we have any viewers or listeners who have not seen the movie Cool Runnings, that is something you need to wind that up for your family in the next 48 hours. because just what an inspirational movie. I mean, that's like the Winter Olympics version of Rudy. I mean, except it's funnier than Rudy. It's just so inspirational. Now you have a book called Keep On Pushing, and I love the subtitle. It's Hot Lessons from Cool Runnings. And so
Yeah.
give us an overview of that book.
Yeah, it's obviously a play on the movie. It's a semi-autobiographical book, and I joke all the time. Like my mantra is keep on pushing. I'm like, forgive me, I'm a bobsledder. That's all I know how to do. Just keep on pushing. But the philosophy, I call it, Andy, speaks to this idea of growth, right? It represents the success journey. Because in a bobsled race, you push the sled at the start, but as you're going down the hill in a real way, you're still pushing against the ice conditions, the weather conditions, the twists and turns of the track. And you're also pushing against the limits of your own abilities, trying to do better than what you did before. So when you couple that with, Cool Runnings is a comedy, but there are so many important life lessons in there. And as I've lived those lessons, I wanted to share them. Like, people, because I joke around so much, don't believe me when I tell them I'm actually scared of speed and height, right? So, so I talk about that. I talk about dealing with your fears, facing your fears, by being courageous, just like being scared to death and doing it anyway, and recognizing, accepting that everything that you want to accomplish in life means that you have to step out of your comfort zone, which brings fear. And hey, you have to make a decision, man. If things go south, if it goes horribly wrong, could you possibly live with the results? And if you can, then you have to take the chance. You have to face your fears. And if you're not willing to live with the results, like, when I was going to doing my first bobsled run, I remember saying, you know what? If I die, I die, but I'm going. So I was willing to.
Well, that's not a result you would have lived with, though. So,
well, the quote unquote.
I hear you.
You just have to accept that, but the thing is, most of the things that you fear the most never happens.
Right.
So that's one of the lessons from the movie, from the book. The fact that you have to, I say, see the track before you take the track. One of the chapters in there, which really speaks of visualization, that you have to imagine the life you want to live in order to be able to live that life, right? Teamwork is an important part. The journey starts with all of us, but it doesn't continue nor end with all of us. So there's some really amazing, I would say, life lessons in the book that I try to share using stories from my life, and of course, being in the Army and being an Olympic athlete and growing up in Olympic Gardens.
Yeah, best way to teach is through stories. You mentioned visualization, and I remember seeing them showing you guys getting ready for a race and sitting there with your eyes closed, and you're going through the track, and your heads are moving with the curves, and I've never forgotten that. So what is, Devin, what is one thing, I guess, a lesson that you have learned that has surprised you the most? Something, I mean, you could kind of expect to learn the lesson of persistence, to learn the lesson of sticking. But what lesson have you learned that has surprised you?
Well, I guess I'll answer it this way, Andy. I would say the biggest lesson I learned in the entire experience is not that I can learn to bobsled in a really short time, but that I can literally accomplish anything that I set my mind to. It's that, man, that idea, as I said earlier, that if you and it's within reason, obviously, right? Like, I don't think I could become an astronaut. I'm too scared of height.
That's too high. Yeah.
Me, right? No, but seriously, it's like, if you have this dream, this goal, this vision, and then you pour your heart and your soul, you just totally commit, totally sell out to it, man. You can actually achieve. You could surprise yourself in terms of what you could possibly accomplish. And that is the biggest lesson from my journey so far and I take it with me.
Wow. Now you have another book, Goals, How to Set and Achieve Them. And I can't think of anybody better to teach that lesson than you, because you have set and achieved goals that most people would consider ridiculous.
I've achieved a few, I've done some things, as they say. It's so,
But you've achieved some things that most people would not even attempt. We put these, sometimes if somebody says, well, what's the best that could happen? What's the best you can imagine? We'll put some way out there, but we'll almost immediately drag it back because we go, well, that's stupid. That could never happen. And so I don't know, why am I even thinking about that? And yet you guys dared to think something that everybody else was like, what are they doing? And you did it.
So I struggle with the idea of limiting yourself, and so I talk about being from Olympic Gardens. Dude, young men from my neck of the woods don't dream of becoming Army officers, don't dream of graduating from the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, which is a British equivalent of West Point. But I did. And that's the thing, though. So I think, first of all, you have to be willing to, as I said earlier, step out of your comfort zone, because the goals, any worthwhile goal that you have is not in your comfort zone. That's an activity, right? Goals are meant to, upon their accomplishment, or at least in the pursuit of them, shift your life in some way, shape or form for the better. And so you set them, and you have to set them, and they have to be beyond your fingertips so that you're stretching to reach them. But you're not just setting them. In the book, I'm talking to people about what you actually need to do to achieve them. But yeah, and anybody who has succeeded on any level recognize that the average person will look at what they're trying to achieve and go, yeah, that's stupid. Yeah, that will never work. Well, you know what? But what if it does work?
Right.
What do you have to lose?
Now,
Some sleep, maybe?
I got to go back and point out something and just make sure I'm right about this. You graduated from the Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst?
At Sandhurst, yes, sir.
That's where Winston Churchill went.
There's a hall named after him, Churchill Hall. We call it Slumber Hall because by the time we go there, all we're doing is sleeping, exhausted from a day's work.
Wow. Man, I'll see. Maybe I'm not as impressed now with the bobsled thing because you had already accomplished something so incredible. You knew you could do something like the bobsled.
Well, it's kind of funny, because I've been talking about the fact that, when someone hear my story and know of me, I'm reputed for being an Olympic athlete and coming from the inner city, the thinking is always, oh, he saw sports as his way out. And I actually never did. The Army was my way out. The Olympics were my side hustle, man. The army was a thing. Becoming an Army officer was a thing that drove me more than anything else to get out of the ghettos.
Wow. Well, tell us about your foundation, Devin.
Yes, so the Keep On Pushing Foundation, our goal is to provide practical solutions to some of the issues that are preventing kids in disadvantaged communities from becoming properly educated. Now, I'm a Sandhurst grad, but I'm not a Rhodes Scholar. But I understand the importance of education, man. And,
neither was Churchill, by the way.
This is true.
Yeah.
But in order to get to Sandhurst, you have had to crack a book or two. And I did that because I really understood that, man, the one thing that I have control of that can help propel me out of my current circumstances, other than the goal of becoming an Army officer, is actually doing this work. And in this case, becoming educated. It really creates a platform on which you can explode to other areas of your life. So in my old neighborhood, my elementary school, the kids were going to school hungry. And of course, if you're hungry, you can't learn. If you can't learn, you're not getting educated. And then you really find yourself behind the 8 ball. And so I started the foundation. We started a breakfast program. We have a school supplies program. Last year, we completed the building of, we call it a sick bay. It's kind of like a nurse's station. And we're now in the process of establishing a computer lab at the school. So what we're bridging that digital divide within the school population, but that lab will also double as a training center as well for young people in the community. Not just to bridge a digital divide, but to give them the training, the tools that they will be able to take and operate effectively in the 21st century economy.
Buddy, we are so honored that you joined us today. We will have the links to your books and to your foundation in the show notes. And man, let's keep up. If there's any way that I can help you, I'm in. And
I
just
appreciate
really
that,
appreciate
man.
you.
Yes, indeed. I look forward to keeping the connection. But more, Andy, thank you so much for creating this platform, though. And I want to just challenge and encourage your listeners to keep tuning in, because you've been providing an amazing service, just putting out such tremendous information that is helping people to grow, helping them, as I say, to keep on pushing to the next level. So thank you for the tremendous work you're doing.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. I just, it's an enjoyable experience to me when I get to hook up with people like you and just help spread your information. And so thank you. Thank you for being with us.
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Long underwear for the cast and crew by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional funding provided by allkindsofbutter.com. How many jars of peanut butter did you consume before the age of 21? Less than or more than 100 jars. And then, your palate matured, and you ventured into almond, cashew, even pecan butter. Tired of it yet? Of course you are. Let allkindsofbutter.com rescue you from the typical boredom of nut butters. Expand your thinking, friend. There is a wide world of extraordinary butter blends we're packaging just for you. Our liver butter is the newest addition to our protein line that includes beef tongue butter, pickled pig's feet butter, and chitlin butter. For vegetarians, try the lima bean butter or the broccoli butter. And on holidays, serve Grandma's favorite English pea casserole butter. Seafood lovers will enjoy our raw oyster butter. It and the stingray butter pair nicely with the sushi butter that comes in 3 flavors: eel, octopus, and catfish. So log in now or subscribe to our Butter of the Week program. That's allkindsofbutter.com.